Speaking of elite crimes, you know, the one thing that Biden kind of was celebrated for in the withdrawal from Afghanistan was this drone strike that supposedly hit an ISIS-K target in retribution for their attack on our servicemen and women and innocent Afghan civilians. Well, there were, from the jump, a lot of questions about whether they really hit anyone related to ISIS. And very quickly, there started to be reports of large civilian casualties, at least 7 up to 10, including babies. I mean, little Afghan children. So the New York Times dug in and actually went on the ground and figured out who was it that our military, that in this drone strike was actually killed. And turns out, lo and behold, the supposed ISIS-K terrorist that they targeted was a 14-year employee of the Nutrition and Education International, a U.S. NGO that fights malnutrition. His name is Ahmadi. Let's throw this first tweet up on the screen. Evan Hill, I mean, phenomenal journalism here. Phenomenal journalism, went to the house, spoke to the family, tracked the security cameras that watched Mr. Ahmadi over the day go to his job, distributing aid to poor people who were without food, picking up his colleagues, filling his car with water canisters that he could bring home to his family. And what Evan says here, the final act of the U.S. war in Afghanistan was a drone strike in Kabul that killed 10 people. And ultimately, our latest investigation shows how a man the military saw as a, quote, imminent threat and ISIS facilitator was actually an aid worker returning to his family. When he pulled his white Toyota Corolla into his family's courtyard, his children ran out to greet him and to jump into the car. That's when the drone strike hit, murdering him and children in his family and extended family. Here's some of the detail that the New York Times, Evan Hill, was able to gather. Let's show this video, which shows, so the military claimed that he was picking up explosive material, loading his car down with explosive material. They even lied and said, we know that it was explosive material because there were secondary explosions that proved, and that's what really killed the civilians here. All complete lies. There were no secondary explosions. The civilians were directly killed, murdered by this drone strike. And you can see the security camera footage here that reveals Mr. Ahmadi loading his car with water to take to his home where they were facing a water shortage. Let's take a look at that.
At 2:35 p.m., Ahmadi pulls out a hose, and then he and a coworker fill empty containers with water. Earlier that morning, we saw Ahmadi bring these same empty plastic containers to the office.
And the military never would say who they hit.
Yes, they were just admitted, like ISIS-K.
They admitted to the New York Times they didn't even know who it was. But this drone tracked him for 8 hours as he went about his day, picking up his colleagues, going to his office. They described his office as an unknown compound, and it was really just an aid worker office. And so they follow him around, and then they killed this guy that they even admit they didn't even know who he was. It's such a crime, and unfortunately, so typical of what was done in Afghanistan and Iraq and throughout the region, year after year after year, president after president after president. And yet the thing they want Biden to resign for is his withdrawal from Afghanistan, not any of this.
You gotta love that one. And this is the thing. This has been happening for over 10 years. The drone war that Obama lit up in 2009, there have been reports like this forever. Nobody cared. Literally nobody. I mean, I think it was The Intercept and antiwar.org that would report some of this stuff. But that was it. It's like people in the media, they're like, yeah, whatever. So this is the thing. Like, they'll punish you, and look, rightfully so, when the time comes, whenever it goes against their narrative. But this has been a feature of the U.S. war on terror in the tribal regions of Pakistan and Afghanistan and Yemen and now for a long time. And look, I'm not some like Howard Zinn liberal, but what I'm saying is that one of the issues is that the superior precision technology that they like to talk about is only as good as the intelligence that you have in order to strike. And if you don't have good intelligence, then your bomb is worse than useless, like in this particular case. And that's the issue that we've had, is that, like, based on pretty sketchy intelligence, we have had a process which was actually written by Obama, which allowed the use of not just lethal force, but lethal force with non-combatants who were around in order to be used with very little retrospective. You know, I was reading yesterday about bin Laden's son, Hamza. They're like, the US believes they killed him sometime in 2017, but never got confirmation. I'm like, how does that work? So you think you did it?
Yeah.
Kind of? Who was there? What happened? I mean, all of this is being done in your and my name in order to protect you and me. We need to have a lot more visibility. And Obama, this is the real thing, is that he brought in all this fake like legalese about these processes like, oh, well, you know, I am the decider and I have this entire 40-page memo that you have to go through. And I'm like, that doesn't change the fact that it's clearly not working, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, there's still a lot of screw-ups. Is there any process in which, where is the church committee or something like that of Congress, which has looked into any of this? Look, maybe it'll come, but I doubt it. And even if it did, there's one strike. They won't look at the whole thing.
And all these people who claim to care about Afghan civilians.
They don't care. Yeah,
please. I mean, we drone striked hospitals. We drone striked weddings. Like,
I remember that hospital.
This is nothing new. Right. Let's even say that he had been ISIS-K, which it looks pretty definitively like he was a U.S. aid worker who, working for a California-based aid organization, who, by the way, he and his family had applied for Afghan refugee resettlement to come here. I mean, these were pro-American Afghans, our allies, and we murdered them and their babies, okay? That's what happened here. But even if he had been ISIS-K, you're gonna do this in the middle of this was a residential neighborhood in a densely packed area of Kabul, like, just so that Biden could try to avoid a bad news cycle of him saying that he was weak. They had to go out and bomb something so they could say we got the bad guys. And this is the reality of what actually happened here. And again, from the very jump, we knew this thing was suspicious because they wouldn't say. If they really got some high-level ISIS-K target, they'd be crying from the rooftops about here's the guy and here's what he did and here's what he looks like and all of this stuff. Wouldn't say, there were two different strikes, wouldn't say who they ultimately got. So I'm very curious also about that other strike and who they actually took out.
I can tell you, I covered the Pentagon. I covered a lot of high-value strikes. They always name the target whenever it's a high-value target.
Yes.
Always. And if they don't name the target, they're a lot more descriptive. So this time they tried to do the whole explosions. There'll be like an ISIS oil refinery in the city. Here's the video. Here's the proof of like why it was. On this one, it was a 2-paragraph statement. Yeah. ISIS, Pentagon has committed an ISIS-K attack, imminent, whatever. No details, no clarifications. Here's the thing. They lied to us. 100% lied. There's also still no admission yet from the Pentagon that they screwed up. And guarantee you, there won't be.
They'll just try to bury it.
They'll bury it. They'll do like, we're
doing an investigation.
Exactly.
Okay.
They'll kick it to the inspector general or whatever, and you're gonna get some fake report in like 9 years that'll eventually be declassified. And by that point, who the hell knows what will be going on? This is a feature, not a bug, of the last 10 years of the war on terror. And that's, again, this is all being done in your name. You should really think about what we let them get away with over the last 10 to 15 years. And a lot of these attacks do not hold up over scrutiny. And I would love to see some ISIS guy with suicide bomb get blown up. But here's the thing, like, you gotta be sure, because otherwise, what are you doing? I mean, we killed a US aid worker and his kids. That's not a joke. 20 years ago, that's enough to get fired in the military. That's enough in order to prompt like a real investigation. Yeah. Now they're just like, whatever. Just write it off.
I mean, they're counting on the news cycle to move on, and it will.
Which it will. Right.
And, the years down the road, if there is actually any sort of investigation, it'll be too late for it to matter or for anyone to care. Just remember, when we talk about the war on terror, this is what it was. Yeah. This is what it was. When they want to revive this, resuscitate it, rehab it, and apply it again now to our citizens, no.
Yeah.
No. I mean, this is literally what we're talking about. So do not fall for it. The war on terror was nothing but an atrocity. It was horrific. It was terrible for us. It was terrible for the Afghans. It was terrible for Iraqis. It was terrible for Syrians. It was terrible for that entire region. All it has done is made us less safe And by the way, murdered hundreds of thousands of people in the meantime. So we are not going down that road again. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut. Our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions. All that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.